Welcome to another installment of In the Process here on my Joe Holt's Notes 2021 YouTube channel. We do this every week with a video premiere every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. as well as, I almost called it the wrong name, Piano for My Friends, every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. on my Joe Holt's Notes YouTube channel. You'll hopefully, if I remember, I keep forgetting, find the support link to my website if you are so inclined to encourage me in that manner. Thank you so much to those of you who do. All right. Today's topic I'm titling Learning to Learn. And actually, if you don't know exactly how to take that, because it could be construed different ways, then my response to you is yes, do that. But I think primarily I mean something more specific, at least as the main focus of this. We'll see. My brain isn't working right now. We'll see how this goes. And I think you'll pick that up as we go. This is all going to be leading up actually to a particular story at the end that is one of the more poignant and instructive moments in my life, not just my music career. And it applies to everything, and in particular, music. So I need to start by saying, if I'm talking about learning, I'm talking about now formal school. And coming up in grade school and middle school and high school, I think it's fair to say I had a negative relationship to school. And I went to school before there were mandatory attendance policies. You may recall talking about my trips to the Midwest and those car trips. It took several weeks, and then I think this was last week that I did this. And it abruptly stopped when my son's either pre-K or kindergarten principal of the school, but when he was in pre-K or kindergarten, said, nope, we have mandatory attendance policies. If you take this 2-week trip, we're going to fail them in kindergarten or pre-K. Like, do I want to tell you how many days that I missed in certain years of my school on purpose? You know, because I managed to get away with it. Yeah, I'd walk to the school bus and I'd say, you know, it's Thursday. I've gone 3 days this week. I don't need to go today. Turn around and walk home. I think my sophomore year, I actually missed 60 days of school. But I always managed to get through it. And in fact, honestly, it wasn't difficult. But I only kind of got through it. I think I had a B- average in high school. I never really applied myself. I knew in certain circumstances where I had to kind of step up, you know, big picture thing. Okay, this is important. Let me pay attention to this. This, nah. Go down to the band card or hang out all day. You know, that was my thing. I hesitate to bring this up, but I'm going to do it. So when I was a young kid, and I don't know now where I wrote this in my notes. I'm probably getting ahead of myself or beside myself. I'm always beside myself to some extent. When I was in second grade and we moved to New Jersey, where I wound up growing up, which was not what we expected because my dad was in the military, but he managed to be in his last station for 9 years without being transferred when he was supply chief for the Marine Corps supply activity in Philadelphia. That never happened. You never stay anywhere more than 3 years. But anyway, we came to New Jersey when I was 7 and going into second grade. And apparently there was this barrage of tests and something I don't talk about. And frankly, I don't know much about because I wasn't told. I mean, I knew that it appeared that I had peaked the meter on those tests. And they were talking to my parents about moving me up and all of this. And they were pretty adamant that, socially that would be bad for me. And they left me be. It was never addressed again. But the downside of doing that, if you're a parent in that position, is your child could get bored in school. And yeah, lots of things going on in my head, all at once. School was a small part of it, as much as it needed to be for me to get through it. So that's the setup for where I'm going to go. But although I didn't care much for school, I did not intend to grow up to be a mule. Would you like to swing on a star? Well, sure. The air's kind of thin up there, but it'll all work out. Okay, so that's the very brief history of me leading up to graduating high school. And I remember at a scrapbook or something that I put a picture of my high school graduation in when we were out in the football field. And I captioned it, "That's the last time you'll ever see me on that field," which also has to do with marching band. But sorry, that'll be another topic, and I know that will offend some people. But anyway, I actually did return to the high school several times, not thinking I was going to ever when I graduated, because I was still kind of tight with the choral director, and I would come back to accompany the choir for the chorus for the spring concerts and stuff. The music corridor would call me back. The rest of the school, no. But now graduating high school, though neither of my parents, different generation, different set of circumstances, neither of them went to college, it was expected that I would. And at that point, I was the kid who did two things kind of obsessively. Played music and went bowling. And I've told you some of this. The bowling thing was, I think, directly related to the military connection, the military lifestyle. On every Marine Corps, Marine Corps. My dad was a Marine, but in every military base there's a bowling alley. I'm going to get ahead of myself here. This was for later, but I'll tell you now. I had sinus surgery at the Naval Hospital in Philadelphia when I was 21 years old. 2-lane bowling alley in the basement. That hospital is no longer there. And the night before my surgery, my bowling buddy came over and we were down there until I felt like, my throat getting sore. It's like, wow, I can't mess up my surgery tomorrow. Gotta stop. But I'm sure that's the only hospital I'll be in. Are there any hospitals left with a bowling alley in the basement? That was my thing. So those are my two obsessions. And although they may have been my two career choices, although one of them absolutely wasn't. I was never good enough to be a professional bowler. I thought about it. I wanted to. The expectation in me to go to college was not necessarily for that. But I didn't have any other, thought of what I was going to do. So it's like, okay, no thought about this, default music, piano major. And that was okay. I was going to college. I think they would have been happy or happier had I did something else, but it was fine. I was going to college. I got supported with it, and I wasn't planning on going down this road, but real quick. And I hadn't had actual legit, I had a beginner teacher that I had longer than really worked. Actually until he passed away. And then I really didn't have any instruction. Although all that background with that teacher was classical. And about 8 months before my audition for college, because you have to audition to be a music major, and not everybody gets in. You have to show prowess and ability and aptitude and stuff. So we found a classical music teacher in a neighboring town, kind of a more high-powered teacher, and we went. I've told you this story once, I think. We went over there, auditioned in 8 months, get me going here. And she looked at probably my dad and said, "You're kind of nuts, but okay, leave him. We'll come back." And then he came back and, okay, oh no, fine, we're good. And it was actually a good, however many months of lessons, really just super catching up and getting me to be ready for the audition, and off I went. But I did not have the appropriate attitude for college. I took my high school attitude with me, and okay, here I am, what am I doing? And I got with my mind somewhere else, and blah, blah, blah. And I got through a year. I think I got a D in one of my classes. I might have gotten an A in something. And I had a 3.1 GPA or something. I don't know how I did that even. And then after the first year, no. And that was not a decision that played well at home. But I kind of implied earlier on that, when I said I missed 60 days my sophomore year, I don't have as much of a memory of that, but I'm sure that didn't play well either. And, I was able to navigate. Let's put it like that. And when I dropped out, I remember that my attitude was, not now, not yet. Because I knew that I did not have the ability, the willingness, the discipline, the maturity, whatever, all of the above, to do this correctly. If you're going to do something, do it right. That was one of my dad's things. And my dad's admonitions did seep in. And it's like, no, I'm not doing this right. This is stupid. And I didn't want to do it. I was not ready for the commitment of learning. But deep inside my head, or my heart, actually, I believed that I would be. And I can look back now, and I can see that I was doing the big picture thing. I was understanding the larger context, and the larger context was guiding me to find the appropriate puzzle pieces, even if I didn't understand it at the time. And you've heard me say this a million times if you watch. In contrast to like not knowing what the big picture is until you put the puzzle pieces together and you say, "Oh, look at that," right? And that's a function of temperament. And I think it was in that first year of school. I've recalled this before, that my music theory professor, I was playing around, campus and did a concert or two for something or whatever. Deary Brothers were there at the time. I know the three of us did a show, and the professor said to me, "Why are you here? Go to New York. Get networked, learn by doing, go do it." And for the same reason or the same general set of circumstances that I knew I wasn't really prepared to go to school, I wasn't prepared to do that either. I knew I didn't have my act together, but I did think about it. Yeah. There we go. That was fun. I'm always quoting that tune and never really playing it as a tune. I should do that more often. Yeah. All right. So, I dropped out of school and lived the life that would be the only life I'd know how to lead. And I understood that at the time too, I think. It was prior to the time that I had embraced this as what I would say a calling. And that was a very serious kind of deliberation within me. It's like, I'm doing this on purpose. And I don't say things like there's a reason, although that's completely underneath everything I do. But to say there is a reason pigeonholes it too much. It's, there's something, and when we see that, then that reason. No, it's so complex in the big eternal divine scheme of things. A reason? No. Everything's reason. The reason for everything is wrapped up in everything, So it's just part of the bigger picture. When I say bigger picture, that's kind of my way of saying there is a reason, whatever that is. And I'm not trying to figure out because it's beyond me. But you get what I'm saying. I was connected to that in a very serious deliberation, a few years after I went back to school. No, I dropped out of school and went back to school. I'm getting my chronology mixed up, which I do all the time. That's like putting things in a line, ducks in a row. What? Where are my ducks? I lost them. They ran away. I was already playing. I was already being a musician. I already had that amateur night gig that I talked about. I believe I did. Yeah. The Stages School, it was part of that, I think. And I was doing that on Monday nights. I think I probably quit that gig soon after I dropped out of school, unrelated to dropping out of school. But I picked up gigs immediately. I was already doing stuff. And almost right away, I was working 6 nights a week pretty continually. Primarily in 2 different bands, a contemporary band and a swing era standards, society group that I did during the week. And Monday night was my only night off. And it spoiled me, totally spoiled me. On the occasion I would go out on a date or something, or just go out. It would be a Monday night. You go to the movies and there's 4 people in the movie theater. Kind of thing that happens around here, or could. And then one time I was off on Saturday night, and I went out on do something on a Saturday night, and I'm saying to myself, why do people do this? But that was my life. I was very comfortable with it. I knew who I was. And during that time, that not now, not yet thing was still in my head. It's still part of the big picture. Understanding that, the time was going to come, that I was ready to do this and do this for the right reasons. And the right reasons, and this is the important part of the punchline here, the right reason to do it was not to have a credential to get a job. Nope. I knew who I was, right? The right reason to do it was to learn. I did start out as a music ed major, which is kind of the default of what people are encouraged to do when they go to college, so they can teach music because, nobody can make a living playing music, so you're going to wind up teaching. You're going to be Mr. Holland, which was a cool movie, Mr. Holland's Opus, which I hope you've seen. Not too many movies have I seen front to back that I can sit still for, and those that I have, I've seen like multiple times. And that's a cool story. And many musicians I know, a couple friends of mine, have just retired from their school teaching careers, and now they're just playing, and how they juggled that, you know, all respect to them. You know, there's pros and cons to each side of the street. But I was not planning to be a school teacher. Music ed was just what you're going to do, because I didn't want to do piano performance. You know, it wasn't really like I wanted to be a concert pianist, and it was classical degree. So I did music ed, and I remember doing the amateur night gig on Monday nights, and I scheduled an 8 o'clock in the morning. I think it was a flute class. You got to learn all the different instruments. At the college, it was like a half-hour commute from my parents' house where I live. I'm like, oh, never do this again. So then I made a rule after that, 9:30 classes at the earliest. And then at some point after that, I made a rule, 11 o'clock classes at the earliest. Being in control of my schedule is something I've always had, and I don't think I could live without that at this point. Couldn't live without it then either, apparently. And where am I in here? Okay, I guess what I'm doing is I'm leading up to that epiphany moment. I was in bed one night. I was sleeping. And I can't tell you what time I woke up. I'm going to say the middle of the night. Middle of the night could have been 3. The middle of the night could have been 7:30 in the morning had I gone to bed at 5, which is something I could easily do. But whenever it was, I woke up, sat up, clear as a bell, clear as the sunrise on a cloudless day. I think I said it out loud. I'm ready to learn. Whatever had happened, all the little seeds grew, and that tree sprung up, or whatever it was, and there it was right in front of me. Okay. And it wasn't a deliberation, it wasn't a consideration, it was, okay. My dad didn't believe me at all, you know. But it was in the spring. Well, let's back up a second, because I was going to play this tune, and I don't even remember how it goes. You know, when I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. But when I'm sleeping and I wake up, I don't know how that goes. You may not have noticed, but I got distracted like soon after starting that, because I realized, you know, I think I just played this a couple weeks ago. Oh well, I'd already started. So anyway, I said my dad didn't believe me, even when, because this was in the spring that I had this determination. Even when I where'd you go? Retook my second semester music theory class as a summer class. Not because I was concerned about music theory, but because uh, I was struggling with the official solfeggio connection with the syllables. I could sight sing, but I couldn't do it sol di ma fa. My dog has fleas, or whatever it is. And I figured, you know what? I'm just going to hit the ground running. And so I went to summer school because I know I was going to learn, and I took it super serious. Now, this all goes someplace. In the closing story, it's gonna tell the tale here, which is pretty cool story looking back. But a few details. So my first year that I was there, before I dropped out, if you're a piano major, well, every music major has to take piano class, and every music major, is in the ensembles or groups or whatever based on what they do. Except if you're a pianist, then you don't have to take piano class because you already play piano. So I wouldn't know what a piano class in school was like that all the other people had to take. And I got to choose whether I was going to be in the instrumental or vocal track. So in the instrumental track, you're required to be in the concert/marching band, and it more has to do with the ensembles that you participate in, that you're required to do. Of course, that requires you to play an instrument, and trumpet was my double, and without thinking, I just signed up for that. And at that point, Joe Mediri was in the concert band, and I knew a couple people, and we sort of hung out and we did the thing. So that was my first year in school. course, that involved marching band. One of the topics is coming up soon will be, most likely, if I can figure out what to do with it, my love up to no dislike of marching band. But I had to do it, and I remember doing a couple parades. And I love the fall. It's just that marching band memories, like what do you call it? PTSD. Oh, yeah. All right. I should talk about this too. So, when I came back a couple years later, I thought about it, and because it wasn't like I was there by default, so there were no decisions to make other than the default settings and the control panel, So this time I gave it thought. It's like, it makes more sense to be vocal. Not that I'm a great singer, but that's going to be more applicable probably to other pursuits, because it also is like, what kind of conducting class do you take? Do you take orchestral conducting or choral conducting? And I think at that point, I was a music director, choir director in my church. Like, learn, one's with a baton, one's not with a baton, and arranging. That's right. There's orchestral arranging and there's vocal arranging, and so I went ahead and signed up on the vocal side, sang in the college community choir, which was a requirement, the choral union. But there was an issue. This is where I mentioned the sinus surgery, because what had happened was, over that summer, the time I was getting ready to go back, I was just like, I couldn't breathe through my nose. What was going on? And my problem was that I had turned 21, and my military dependent health insurance coverage expired, and I dropped out of school. And maybe it would have expired when I was 18, but no, that's not right. I kept it till I was 21, even though I dropped out. So, and of course, when you're 21 years old, you don't really think about buying health insurance for yourself. If you have to go to the doctor, you pay for it. And I had to go to doctors, different doctors, like, what's going on here? But I guess I didn't go to the right doctors. I never really got the diagnosis, right? Until I'm back in school, I'm back in the military system. I go over to Naval Hospital, because at that time, I'm not talking like that, because it was like that. And went to the ENT, and they're like, in 5 minutes, it's like, okay, I look up there. They knew what they were doing. We're going to take some x-rays, and we're going to determine the extent of your surgery. What? Apparently it's like polyps that had grown up and blocked my nose. But the point of that is, try being like this and singing in a choir. So eventually I had to get some dispensation about that. But I was able to prove it because I was going in for surgery to get it fixed. And I can breathe through my nose, sort of, ever since, kind of, a little bit, once in a while. That's a tune I should play, but I won't. So, moving from the instrumental to the vocal side of things, and that's just one of the things about being a piano major. concentration. So let's see if I have enough concentration left to tell the story that I've made this wait for. And just because I've made this wait, and hopefully you're still here, for the real punchline, I'll insert a parentheses. Hopefully I remember another part of this school was two completely different experiences with piano teachers as a freshman, which had part to do with me dropping out. And as an upperclassman, what did we call it? That was just like the most magnificent, wonderful thing that ever happened to me musically. But anyway, we're going to skip that. And we're going to go to my junior year credit-wise. And I say credit-wise because when I went back, initially I was full-time, but I think one semester. I made it 15 credits. 12 was your minimum full-time. But then maybe I started with 12 with the idea that I was continuing to live the rest of my life. And then after the military health insurance thing didn't matter anymore, I went and like vacillated between heavy part-time or light full-time, and it took me 4.5 years to do my remaining 3. No, 6 and no, darn, am I confused? No, 5.5 years to do my remaining 3, because it took me 6.5 years to go through school with a 2-year break. Is that right? I think that was right. But anyway, graduated in 1986. Yeah. So 6.5 years of actually being in school. And so, because I wasn't trying to get done. I was there to learn. I was there to go to every class and to be engaged, whether it was a music class or not. And that's what I was going to say too. My mind isn't working, obviously. When I went back, I dropped the music ed. There were some other circumstances around this, and became a general music major. Still had the instruments, still had the piano and all that. But I was there to learn. Music classes, philosophy, religion classes. I took a concentration in that. Astronomy classes, science, whatever. Man, I was seriously in it. I was learning, and I wasn't paying any mind to anything except going to school and learning stuff. It was cool, and I was disciplining myself to do it. So junior, credit-wise, whatever year that would have been, the music department chair comes to me, and we were kind of chummy. You know, he even then I think he had me like guest lecture in one of his general music classes for non-majors a year. I told you about that. And he said, "Joe, check your mailbox. There's something you need to know." And my first response was, "I have a mailbox?" So this shows you how engaged I was in campus or student life. Not at all. I drove to college, I took my classes, I left. That was it. I didn't know anything about student life. So I discovered I had a mailbox, and sifting through it, I found what he was talking about. It was and when he said, "Check your mailbox," there's a lot of students that are annoyed at you right now. Why are they annoyed at me? Why are they mad at me? What did I do? I don't even, I stay under the radar here. But all of a sudden, I was not under the radar, because I had been invited to be inducted into the Pi Kappa Lambda Honor Society for music majors. So that's the honor society that if you're in like the top tier of your grade point average, you get invited to. And a lot of students apparently compete for that, and they keep track of where everybody else is. And I guess nobody was paying attention to me because I was not on anybody's radar screen. Then all of a sudden I show up and I meet the criteria, which was, if you're a senior, you're in the top 10% of the grade point average of, I don't think it's your class, I think it's your, your music majors or however that works, but top 10% of the grade point average. If you're a junior, top 5%. And I was a junior. And so in addition to everyone else being shocked, because they probably didn't know who I was really shocked because remember my freshman year, right? My freshman year, it's like I blew off. You know, I got like 1A and 1D and a couple of C's, and like, how in the world am I in the top 5% of the GPA, my junior class or my class, whatever it is? And I realized something then. I had no idea what my grades were because the report cards would come in the mail, you know, what we would call report cards. And I never opened them because I wasn't engaged in that. I didn't care. I wasn't there for a grade. And that's a part of this I didn't stress. I wasn't there for a credential. I wasn't there for a grade. I was there to learn, right? And so when the class was over, it's like, okay, that was cool. On to the next thing. No thought about it thereafter. And all those report cards came in our mailbox. I never opened a one. I didn't know what my grades were. So like, what in the? So I did something I wasn't supposed to do, but nobody stopped me. I went in the office, I got in my file, and I started poking through, and I started reading what was going on. And one of the things that I read was that apparently in my audition, I was kind of marked as, you know, like, watch this kid, you know, prodigy type, you know. And it's funny because I had like minimal classical background. I didn't stick with it and all of that. But I wasn't there to be a classical pianist, and I don't have that. I can never pull that off. But what I found and what answered my question was, since I had come back to school, I had gotten straight A's. I had no idea that I had gotten straight A's. Like, what? What? And, you know, it's like, lesson. Purify your motives, elevate the outcome. Remember that, okay? Because what would be the pure motive for going to school? To learn, right? Not for a credential, not to compete, not for a grade, to learn. Bang. Now, of course, this was the kid who had a B- average in high school because I could care less, right? So all of a sudden now, my grade point average is 3.85. And I'm looking and I'm saying, darn it, I only not blown off my freshman year. Man, I'd have probably a perfect GPA. I could be this, I could be that. And that actually was a corrupting thing in my head. Because now it introduced those other circumstances that messed with the motive. Still a good motive, but now it was like the grade, the achievement, the award, the whatever, or just the gratification of knowing you did it, or the annoyance of knowing I messed it up. And being conscious of the grade from that point on, I went out with A's and B's because I was aware of the grade. I mean, there's just A's and B's going out, and more A's and B's, I think, you know. But I think it's easy for me to understand that I got the B because I was looking for an A rather than just purely learning. And that's one thing, you know, with my kids, there was one principle, because everything kind of boils down to one thing to me. Whether it's politics or religion or school, that I pass on to my kids. And this is the one I pass on to my kids. And they run with it all in their own way, and it's really a cool thing. If you have to go to school because you have to get a credential because what you're doing requires it, yeah, you do it, you do those things. But the extent that you can, and in my case, I could do it completely, is just be there to learn. Because my degree, especially in general music, was the proverbial degree in basket weaving. It wasn't going to qualify me for anything, except that I have a college degree. And the idea of having a college degree is its own qualification in a way. It shows people that you have the discipline or whatever. But it was just an opportunity. It was an opportunity to learn. Now it turns out that in my 30s, when I encountered the music therapy road, I had a music degree already. So I could go to graduate school and just mold what I was doing, just augment the things that weren't in my music degree. And it was a very easy path for then. So of course I was setting that up. I didn't know that at the time, but somewhere in my heart, my intuition, I did, because I do believe that we are connected to that bigger picture if we are working on that, out of that part of ourselves, the part that doesn't spin ourselves into the ground, which I've done most of my life, because I'm not just this guy, I'm that guy, and I've spent a lot of time being that guy. My purpose from here on is to be this guy, but this guy showed up over here when my motive was simply to learn. Purify your motive, elevate the outcome. Whew, felt like there was more I'm going to say, but I think that's enough. And there's other things I could say about school, but when I got to the bottom here, Pi Kappa Lambda Story, I didn't even put a song to play at the end. It was just like, this is all going here. I'll figure out what to play for a last tune. And of course, I don't know what that last tune's going to be. Probably, this time it's just going to have nothing to do with it. I'm just going to play. For some reason, I'm wanting to play Satin Doll, but I'm going to repress it for a second, or just step aside from it, not repress it, and just see where I go. So when I landed on that tune, like, ooh, that's where this is taking me. So, those decisions that we make without making them were the best ones. So that decision was to play that for Lynn. So cool. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for your encouragement in the different ways that it's provided. And hope to see you around sometime soon. And see you next week inside the process.